It's the most wonderful time of the year. Hey guys, it's Aaron back with another review for you. Today I'm going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original back in the 80s. So I've got my notes, let's dive right in. So I want to apologize right off the bat because I wasn't able to release yesterday. I just scheduling, the whole thing. I actually really wanted to release this yesterday specifically because for those of you that are, friends of ours on Facebook, you will know that we saw Johnny Depp and Jeff Beck last night, and it was freaking awesome. It was, oh my God. But I wanted to release it yesterday in preparation for that, and obviously just to, have a video out for my Halloween month. But I'm sorry I got behind and just things just didn't work out. So I'm sorry, but here it is today. My apologies again. But without further ado, let's go. All right, Nightmare on Elm Street released November 9th of 1984. Once again, people, why do you not release in October for Halloween scary stuff? Directed by Wes Craven, starring John Saxon, Renee Blakely, Heather Langenkamp, Amanda Wyss, Nick Corey, Robert Englund, and introducing Johnny Depp in his film debut. So yes, a lot of people know that this was an early one of his, but you might not have known that this is the earliest one of his. This was his film debut. So just a little fun fact for you. The plot is teenagers are being murdered in ways that seem unusual and appear to be having terrible dreams, and no one seems to know what is going on. The film is actually inspired by several newspaper articles printed in LA Times in the 1970s about Hmong, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, refugees who refused to sleep after PTSD nightmares, and it was just them staying awake and having, terrible just night terrors. Basically, they weren't able to sleep, and so they were just suffering because of it, and that was what really inspired the film. And obviously Wes Craven decided to make the decision to change it to children and more the boogeyman kind of thing. And I think it works out well because for those of you that know anything about Freddy Krueger or Nightmare on Elm Street films to begin with, he's got the he does look pretty creepy and all that. And quite frankly, if that man came into my nightmares, I'd be scared. But I'd be scared of everything. So, yes, he's got the claw. The gloves. I had those somewhere and I couldn't find them. I was going to wear them for the review, so I'm such a disappointment. But when we first see him in the film, we get just a glimpse initially of the claw and gloves. And in this film, I know that most people might know have seen further in the franchise. You might know him for more of a comedic kind of, has one-liners sort of thing going on. And it does, that Robert Englund really did make I think, wise decision to do that, to make him more of a comedic element in this one. In the later series, but in this first one, he is genuinely terrifying. I really think that this film embodies a really good amount of scariness, of horror. I think it really does its job well and all that because, Freddy Krueger himself is creepy. Robert Englund does a great job. The makeup effects look really good. He's this, disfigured, burnt creep with the claw hands, and it's actually a relatively simple design. It's just you get the sweater thing and claws and a hat and just a gross looking face. But actually the sweater thing is something I wanted to bring up. There is a Mandela effect that is the sweater red and black or black and green, and I believe I should have researched this completely, but I believe it is black and green. Do not quote me. I'm sorry, black and green. Why did I say that? Red and black or red and green. I believe it is red and green, I think is what it is. But yeah, that's kind of a thing. It's one of those, for those of you that know what Mandela effect is, you think it's one thing, but it's actually something else. But our minds have been programmed to see or remember something a specific way, and it's actually, no, it's this. So that's one interesting thing about it. And, it's funny that some of the most to this day, some of the most iconic horror villains are from the 80s. I mean, you've got Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Chucky. You've got all these people, and um, what we know and love as horror today wouldn't have happened without these guys. So some people, I think, maybe, you know, people that love horror maybe don't respect the classics because they're like, oh, they're old and blah blah blah. And sometimes I can understand the, okay, they're not scary, and okay, fine, that's all well and good. But then, I point you to another review I just recently did, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from the 70s. So, that's what it is. And I think this one also is a good example of scary, especially when like I said, if you see the later films, which I'll probably review at some point and explain a little more. But from what I remember, it's been a long time since I've seen them, but from what I remember, yes, Freddy Krueger is still menacing, but it's a lot more comedic elements, like I said before. This one really is just, there's a couple puns and there's a couple, I mean, of course, Freddy Krueger was there from the beginning, but I mean, of what the character was, but overall, it actually is just a terrifying villain. And, Freddy, from number 4, I might kind of laugh at if I saw him. Freddy from number 1, the first nightmare, I would be genuinely like, oh crap, that's a nightmare. I'd be, even the parts where, you see, like when we first really get to see him, he's coming up and he's got his arms spread out and he's scraping the walls of the plant or whatever that they're in the dream, and then he cuts his finger off and it gushes out the green blood and everything. And even though, yes, you see the gimmicky side, and I do like that Wes Craven did that from the beginning. He didn't make him a complete menace. I mean, like I said, he's got the wise, crackers and the one-liners and all that kind of stuff, which is really cool. But also, he is menacing. He is something that I'd be scared of, and rightfully so. And he, terrifies the town, and all these people, they're scared to go to sleep, and rightfully so. Um, the When we see the first kill, the blood from the bed, that effect is boss. I have seen this film before, of course, and I remember it, and I picture it in my head, but when I was watching it this time, I really took a look at the production aspect of it and different things like that, and it's very like, oh man, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I love practical effects. I'm a sucker for them, and that was a practical effect that is just awesome to look at to this day. And we're talking, what, 40 years ago now, and it's still 50. I don't know what it is, but we're talking that long ago, and that effect is still such a cool look, and it's such a good looking effect because it's a practical effect. And I've said it before, CGI, there's nothing wrong with it if you do it smart. Sometimes you actually have to do CGI because practical effects are so hard. But I think had this one been a CGI effect, I don't think it would have gotten the look and the appeal that we get, and I don't think it would have been as nerve wracking. I'm trying to think of the 2010 remake, and I know that they did some liberties of their own, but for the most part, I do think it tries to follow pretty well along the same lines. And I feel like that one was also a practical effect, but I might do that one later and find out for sure. But, and I think one of the reasons that it was because you can't beat the original, especially if you're going to do dumbing downs of certain things that happened. And like in this film, it's very, I think that they could have. I think what Wes Craven did, and of course, Wes Craven was a master of horror. He really was. I mean, for not only the Nightmare on Elm Street, he did the original Last House on the Left. He did Scream. He did. I mean, he's done all kinds of films that really have just plummeted. No, not plummeted. Sorry. Expanded the genre so far than what it used to be. And I think he's one of the, obviously he's an OG, but I think he's one of the reasons that horror actually is regarded highly nowadays, because I think people, when they look back at films, especially like Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream, the original, and things like that, movies like that, they see the time and effort and the care. It's like John Carpenter. I mean, there is a wrong and a right way to do a horror film, and um, I think that just like John Carpenter, I think Wes Craven knows how to do it. I think he got a good cast, because he all the kids, all the adults, everyone does a good job at acting. Um, you you feel the fear when they're feeling the fear. You feel the, you laugh with them. You're excited for them when they're excited. Different things, and I think that Wes Craven really just embodied what what was coming in horror. And I think that really in this film especially, he took something that, I mean, let's face it, it could come across as kind of silly as far as a premise goes. I mean, yes, it's the boogeyman. It's coming to get you in your sleep. That's what everyone always talks about when they talk about, like, oh, well, don't, the boogeyman will come get you or whatever. But it can be done silly. I mean, I'm pretty sure the film Boogeyman is actually pretty lame from what I remember. And so he has this relatively, could go either way plot, even though it's based on, it's inspired by true events. It really, the Nightmare on Elm Street that we get, it really could have gone either way. And I think that Wes Craven was really smart in doing what he did, because I think that um he did such a good mix between, kind of comedy and horror, that we have a very good balance that speaks to us even after all these years later. And I think that's a reason why it's just become such a classic and has stayed a classic. I mean, I know this thing was a big hit when it came out. And I mean, when you think of Halloween horror movies and stuff like that, when don't you see Freddy Krueger? I mean, it's always, even when you add in new people, it's always Jason, Michael, Freddy, probably Chucky, and then maybe some new people. But they're always out there, and Freddy Krueger is just he's one of the icons of horror now. Like him or love him, you gotta respect the fact that, well, yeah, he really pioneered us into the next thing going. And as much as I love the Friday the 13th franchise, for those of you, spoilers, for those of you that haven't seen it, Jason Voorhees is only a kid in the first one. He's not the mask wearing madman that we know and love until the third one, really. And so, as much as I do love those films overall, and I appreciate what they did for the genre, he wasn't there from the beginning. Freddy Krueger has been there from the beginning of his films, and he's just, like I said, he's just this force and this menace to be reckoned with. And I don't think enough people give him his due, because it is an old slasher film. It is an old whatever it may be. And later on, I think maybe starting even in the second one, it gets a lot more campy, which doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but I definitely don't see the menacing Freddy Krueger that you see in the first film. And I think the 2010 remake tried to do that. And I do remember liking the 2010 remake, but Robert Englund he personifies Freddy Krueger, and you can't really have Freddy Krueger. As much as I think Jackie Earle Haley did a decent job, there's just some people that were born to play certain parts, and Robert Englund was born to play Freddy Krueger. And I think that any type of, you know, maybe continuings and adaptations and whatever else, I think if you don't have Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, you just don't get the same thing. I mean, and guess what? With the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I remember liking it, so I'd have to watch it again to give a true whatever evaluation. But Jackie Earle Haley did a good job from what I remember, but they tried to 100% make it scary, which there's not necessarily anything wrong with. But I think that's what they kind of missed the whole point of Freddy Krueger, the Robert Englund version. Um, he's I mean, he's this menace, but he's this all encapsulating uh, dork kind of even. I mean, you could be scared of him 1 second and then you're laughing at something he says, but you're still scared of him because you don't know what he's going to do next. Anyway, that's, that's my best I think telling of Freddy Krueger I could go for you guys. Little fun fact, yes, I saw Johnny Depp and Jeff Beck last night, which is why I didn't get to upload the video. If you guys get a chance to see them, go see them. They're so freaking awesome. It was genuinely one of the best shows I've seen. Jeff Beck is a monster on the guitar. Johnny Depp he sounds so good live, and you can see just when Jeff Beck's up, the whole band's great. I don't know who the girls, I don't know their names, but their drummer and their bassist, they were solid as well. I mean, just a force, really. Their drummer, man, she was. Anyway, the one thing I will say, is just because we're talking about Johnny Depp and everything, uh, you're watching Jeff Beck, and then Johnny Depp is watching him on stage like a fan, and just in awe and admiration that we all were. It was just something really nice to see. And yeah, I know that doesn't have anything to do with the movie, but it's Johnny Depp, and I got to see it. I'm excited to talk about it. So if you guys get a chance to see him, go check them out. They were amazing. Actually, I'm sorry, they might even be done after tonight. We saw them in Cincy last night, and anyway. But yeah, guys, that's my review. So you got to thank, even if you don't like horror films, you got to thank this one. This is what gave us Johnny Depp, guys. And so you got to respect it for that. So thank you to Wes Craven for being smart and a good director. And we miss you, brother. But anyway, that is my review. I'd give this one overall a 9 out of 10. And I definitely think you guys should check it out. It's coming up on AMC, I think, in the next couple of days, if I remember correctly. I had it on DVD, so I don't know exactly sure where did I write down where you can stream it at? No, I'm sorry, guys. But anyway, check it out. Let me know what you guys think. How do you guys like the Halloween month? And we're coming up with another one. And take it easy. Talk to you next time.